Symbols carry powerful meanings. In Christianity, the cross represents the sacrifice of Christ, which granted forgiveness to every sin committed by man. From then on, the cross became symbolic for the love God has towards humanity. And to this day, it is the symbol of Christianity and its faith. Similarly, no other symbol in Elden Ring is as closely connected to divinity like this Bible. The core symbol of divinity that is recognized as such by several factions in this world, with its most prominent use found among Hornsent culture through Envoys and the Gate of Divinity. Yet, what no one has discussed so far is how much more important this symbol is than even the Elden Ring, since its influence and connection to divinity is indirectly explained to us via Metyr, or to be more precise, by her tail. If you look closely at her tail, you notice that it consists of two parts wrapping around one another in an upward movement, forming in turn a spiral, with its top ending in a half-open halo housing her microcosm in form of an orb. And, according to the Staff of the Great Beyond, Metyr uses this setup to commune with her father, the Greater Will. What we can furthermore learn about her tail is that it was the very first instance of the spiral shape to occur within the timeline of Elden Ring's lore. Because according to her remembrance, describing her as the very first shooting star to fall upon the lands between, I would wager that no other being from space arrived before her, which in turn makes Metyr the very origin of the spiral standing for divinity due to her tail's shape and the microcosm placed within it. And if you have consumed other lore videos, then you are already familiar with the fact that the Greater Will is the most ancient and influential outer god, due to it having manifested its influence for countless millennia throughout several civilizations like the Golden Order, the Hornsent, and also the Ancient Dragons, which is the earliest recorded civilization that worshipped the Greater Will, a topic I've already covered in a separate video. Hence, for the spiral to be so closely connected to divinity, Metyr must have been seen by others communicating with the Greater Will via her tail. Something that is furthermore proven by the clover pattern of her eye's iris being referenced within the stonework of churches. With all of these pieces combined, Metyr is definitely the reason as to why the spiral, as a symbol, became synonymous with divinity. For the daughter of a god communicating with it via her spiral tail is certainly as powerful of a symbol as crucifying Jesus, Sun's God, on the cross, as well as an interesting parallel to our IRL myths. As a result, every civilization featuring this Bible symbol, in a way connected to divinity, likely have strong ties to Metyr herself, meaning that she influenced countless different societies in the lands between. However, the extent of their involvement with Metyr becomes quite spotty due to a lack of lore, of which the pinnacle are the oracle envoys we find in Leyndell and the Erdtree, who each carry a horn instrument with a spiral shape. Next to this, however, them shooting bubbles with their instruments is very likely a hint towards the origin of the design being modeled after Metyr. For the Oracle Envoy Ashes states that it is said that when Oracle Envoys appear playing their pipes, they do so to herald the arrival of a new god or age, raising a spiral-shaped instrument towards the sky that can produce bubbles similar to a microcosm, with the explicit purpose of heralding in the arrival of a god, is very on the nose that these envoys must mimic Metyr. And furthermore, another interesting observation between these two are bubble sorceries. Specifically, the sorcery Great Oracle Bubble is the only other bubble attack in the game, which reads, Sorcery of the Claymen who served as priests in the ancient dynasty. And what is even more interesting is that the Great Uhl bubble not just looks similar to a fleeting microcosm, but is almost identical. Having a connection to the Claymen we find here in the ancient ruins of Uhl in turn suggests that either the Uhl envoys originate from this lost civilization, or that this civilization too was influenced by Metyr, meaning that all of them must have been around the same time when Metyr was an active figure in the lands between, as trying to summon a god via a spiral is also what Placidusax is doing in his storm beyond time. And thanks to his Dragonlord remembrance, we know that he is awaiting here the return of his god, trying to contact it in the same way like Metyr. Placidusax doing this pose is yet another proof that the ancient dragons are the very first civilization serving the Greater Will and his vassals that essentially dominated the lands between. And now with him adopting a spiral pose, which is used to contact the Greater Will, it is very likely that the god referenced within his remembrance might be the Greater Will itself. Or he's perhaps trying to reach out to his nameless god, the then vassal for the Elden Ring, a woman who is depicted here beneath the Elden Ring artwork. Someone we know nothing about. Though not knowing much about prominent women in the lore of this world isn't something new. After all, the Gloam-Eyed Queen certainly is quite a vital person within the lore and also in form of her connection to the Greater Will. Via the Black Flame ritual incantation, we know that she was an Empyrean chosen by the Two Fingers. And her picking was most certainly when Metyr was still around in the public eye, before her residing in the finger birthing grounds. I base this on the following two key observations we can make about the Queen via her items. The first being her sigil that is cast when using any Black Flame incantations. The design of the sigil, with its outer contour lines housing a spiral in its center, is extremely similar, no, almost identical to the looks of Metyr's head. And on top of that, we can find a spiral design within the Gloam-Eyed Queen's sword. A design almost perfectly replicating Metyr's tail to a T. I believe that the Queen must have seen Metyr with her own eyes in order to possess two very iconic designs eerily similar to Metyr's actual looks. And it is no surprise that direct servants of the Greater Will fashion weapons with a spiral shape. Because the Elven Beast does this with the body of Redagon when it fights us. Although the Sacred Relic Sword spiral is nowhere as pronounced as Godslayer's Greatsword. And although having shown you exclusively civilizations of the past right up to now, this Bible's divine importance is still used in the present day, with Miquella incorporating a spiral in the sigil of his Erdtree as well as within his needles. However, the extent of Miquella's knowledge about the origins of the symbolic meaning behind the spiral remain a mystery. The three most likely cases are that either his mother, some historical records, or the two fingers that selected him were his source about the spiral's connection to divinity. And yet, I find it very interesting that now in the present day, this spiral is used inversely. Before, it was always used to reach out to the gods. However, now with Miquella, it got the new meaning of repelling the gods and their influence on the lands between. And funnily enough, the spiral being used against divinity is also done by the depraved perfumers. We learn this via the design of the depraved perfumer robe, stating that the embroidery on the apron is itself a curse upon the Erdtree. To be fair, I doubt that these people are aware of the extensive history behind this Bible symbolism. But a group that has figured out the meaning behind this Bible is the Academy of Wea Lucaria. One of the glintstone sorceries is the spell Shard's Bible. According to its item description, this was the product of a failed attempt to create a new comet. The obsession of sorcerers with stars, comets, and all things from space is because they are aware that the origin of all life and energy stems from the cosmos. This knowledge and its implications are best explained to us by Count Ymir.
I, too, am a glintstone sorcerer. We study the stars and examine the life therein. Are you familiar with our findings? Long ago, we began as stardust, born of a great rupture far across the skies. We, too, are children of the greater will. Is that not divine? Is that not sublime? And yet, none can fathom its implications. Its utter brilliance.
As such, glintstone sorcery and the primeval current are all attempts of man to tap directly into the power of the greater will. Something another group attempted as well, but through a vastly different approach. Bringing us now to the civilization that was the most influenced by the spiral. The Hornsent people, whose entire culture was built around an obsession. The incantation Spira states that this spiral is a normalized crucible current that, one day, will form a column that stretches to the gods. Which, in just one sentence, summarizes every important aspect that makes this Bible synonymous with Hornsent culture. The Hornsent believe that this Bible represents the crucible, which in turn stands for every aspect of life. And as Bible representing every aspect of life, occurs also within our scientific world via the DNA. The molecule that contains the genetic information for the development, growth, and reproduction of all organisms. And with the origin of this Bible being Metyr, who is giving birth to her finger children alone, everything comes full circle back to her again. As a result, this Bible standing for the divine crucible, which represents all aspects of life as well as its life-giving function, made tangible through observing Metyr, is why the Hornsent became so obsessed with it. Or, in simpler terms, Metyr communing with the greater will had an immense ripple effect that shaped the entire lore of Elden Ring after her arrival to the lands between, with many either worshipping her and her father or trying to obtain their powers for themselves, with the pinnacle of such acts being the Gate of Divinity, something that was built by the Hornsent, who were influenced in its construction by Metyr. Much like Envoys Uhl itself, the Gate too is built out of people. But why were they using living organisms to build these architectures? Well, the evidence for this is again within Metyr's design. If you look closely at Metyr's tail, you can see miniature 2 fingers popping out from her tail. Neither you, me, nor the Hornsent could possibly comprehend why fingers grow from out there. But knowing how Metyr communicated with the greater will via her tail is enough for any onlooker to come to a conclusion. A conclusion about what they have to do in order to replicate Metyr's communication device. As such, if the Hornsent ever wanted to successfully reach the gods, they had to replicate Metyr's setup one-to-one. But at the same time, build it far more grander to amplify it by 100, with the goal to actually physically meet the greater will. Hence, for this to happen, they had to build a spiral tower reaching towards the skies and above, which was constructed out of millions upon millions of people. However, as you and I know, bodies don't naturally stick to one another. making it in theory horrendous construction material. Which is why, in order for the gate to have identical features and functions like Metyr, the Hornsent set their sights on the shamans, Marika's people. The only people whose flesh melts harmoniously with others. Which is the point in the timeline where Marika got involved with Metyr, the Two Fingers, and the Hornsent. However, this story is better told on another day, as it is quite the convoluted one. So subscribe to not miss it.